What up, Claytriots? It's your boy, Technically Clay, streaming at you from sunny St. Louis, Missouri. How are you doing today? I'm doing okay. Yeah, I mean, obviously, so yesterday I did not stream. There was a family emergency, and for those keeping track, that's two family emergencies, uh, and one cat with cancer for the year so far. So it's has not been the best year. But yeah, so I couldn't do it yesterday. I was also very just emotionally drained, and I'm feeling even more emotionally drained and weird today. Just a heads up. So it might be, we'll see how the mood is, but it might be kind of down, but we'll see. I'll try and do my best to persevere. Anyway, since last time you saw me, like I said, there was that. I played a little bit of Slay the Spire to calm down last night, and then went to sleep, woke up, went to work. Did not work out today. Had some leftovers for dinner, and then came right here to be with you, beautiful people. I hope that you guys are having a good day though out there. I mean, yeah. I think also, by the way, next week I decided that next week I'm just taking the entire week off, just because I'm feeling so stressed out right now that I'm like, nah, I'm just gonna take the whole week off. I'm just gonna relax. Stay at home, play a lot of video games and stuff, and also, I'll probably stream for you guys a lot. But that does mean that next week's schedule is gonna. I know I haven't been very consistent on my schedule lately, so my apologies to people who like the 4 p.m. streams. But next week is going to be a lot of early morning streams since I'm not going to be working. If I could choose, if I didn't have a job and my only job was talking to you people about politics all day, I would start at like 6 a.m. but unfortunately I have a real job, so that means that's why I usually do it at 4 p.m. Right after I get off of work. So but if you ever want me to do it at a different time, there's your motivation to get those sub numbers up, baby. And then we'll see what happens. But yeah. Okay, so I guess that's that. Oh, I need to do well, yeah, all right, whatever. For you, the viewer, hello. Sorry, that's my usual way of transitioning into that, but I kind of forgot. I'm a little bit all over the place today. So let's just go ahead and get into the news, and we'll see what's going on. So the first thing I guess I wanted to talk about today was Trump he's out of the United States, guys. Party, everybody, let's have a party. Let's have a country party for Donald Trump not being here for a little bit now. Trump has gone over to China. And so I've talked a lot about how, America is in an incredibly weakened position at this point, primarily due to its own choices and misadventures in Iran. It had to postpone this trip for like a month last time because Donald Trump originally was planning to, like, after the Venezuela operation and after what he thought would be a quick Iran operation, he thought he was going to have 2 easy wins to go over to China and then leverage those into some sort of like trade deal because, China was, relatively involved in like it was doing some, I think, industrializing in Venezuela and using Venezuela as kind of like a launch pad into like trade negotiations with various South American countries. And then obviously China does get 10% of its energy from Iran through the Strait of Hormuz or whatever. So if America could go in there and be like, oh, and also Iran, I think they get some of their oil from Venezuela as well, if I remember correctly. So if America could have accomplished all of the goals that Trump thought they could accomplish, then that would have been a lot of leverage that he could have tried to use to, get whatever he wants from China. Probably, trade investments and like commitments to invest in America or something along those lines. But since he failed so miserably with Iran and he is still, stuck in the Iran quagmire and unable to get out, he's going into this in a very, very bad bargaining position. So let's go ahead and watch this video from ABC News. Hopefully they'll kind of take us through what all's gone on so far. We can see China do all of their typical theatrics whenever a foreign dignitary comes over, or at least a foreign dignitary of the caliber of like an American president comes over, with the big red carpet and all of their, you know, adoring fans or whatever to come out and do little dance moves for Donald Trump. I don't know if that's what they're going to do, but that's what they usually do whenever they do this. So let's go ahead and watch this video.
Oh, and Selena, it looks like President
Diane,
Trump is walking down the stairs right now, coming out of Air Force One. Again, the president just landed in Beijing for a high-stakes summit with President Xi there in China. Selena, walk us
That gate is not looking good. That's very old man-esque.
through this moment.
Yeah, Diana, I mean, this is a historic moment. I mean, the president coming off of this plane, making his way to China, the first U.S.
See, I told you, little dance moves. I mean, they're like little flag movements and stuff, all coordinated. Highly, it's just highly theatrical. China is a very, they do a lot of theatrical things to like show their coordination and power or whatever. In my personally, I don't really give that much of a shit about all of that. I think that some people find it very like you know, it's fun to look at, I guess, when they do their like highly coordinated like military drills and stuff, or like highly coordinated like these types of things. But I usually see that as more of a like I don't really see that much. Like I feel like it's like an overprojection in some regards of like you wouldn't necessarily need to be doing all of these things if you were like more powerful, I would say, probably. But yeah, I don't know. It is kind of fun to watch though sometimes.
President to
Trump loves this shit, by the way, though. He loves it.
Step foot in China in nearly a decade. Again, President Trump himself was the first to do so nearly a decade ago. I'm not getting the feed on my screen here just yet, but I assume we are having some technical issues here, so I can't see exactly what's happening. But again, this is a moment where President Trump is expecting to walk into a red carpet moment. Again, these two leaders, President Trump has talked very warmly of Xi Jinping, despite some of the
Why'd he bring his son with him? Jesus Christ, dude.
Sanctions and
Can you imagine if Xi Jinping came over to America and brought his fucking son with him, or like brought like his like son-in-law or something? Like, we would be, I think that the American media would like make fun of them to no end if they did that. And here we are doing all that shit.
The tough rhetoric and action we have seen from his administration leading up to this, President Trump said
Elon Musk. God damn it, dude. I swear. This was specifically designed to make me as angry as possible. Number one, it's pathetic. I think I mentioned this the other day, but it is absolutely pathetic that we send our billionaires over to these negotiations between parties, like between two different countries. Like, we should be sending experts, we should be sending, you know, cabinet members, we should be sending like people of importance. We shouldn't be sending our dumbass billionaires who like you know, somehow attained the amount of power that they have while being stupid as fuck. Like, I don't know, it always reminds me of how America is just not a serious country. It's like I think like Hassan or somebody said like America is just 5 companies and a trench coat, and that's basically like, this is a perfect example of that.
This warm bear hug from President Xi Jinping when they meet later this year. He's talked about Xi Jinping as a friend. These are not words you normally hear from a sitting U.S. president about a major U.S. adversary and competitor.
The president has made his way down the stairs. He's now on that red carpet being greeted by the Chinese officials there. The vice president was set to greet him, the vice president of China, the ambassador, U.S. ambassador to China, ambassador of the People's Republic of China to the U.S., and then the executive vice minister of foreign.
Yeah, you'll notice not the head of like Huawei or something, right? Like they didn't invite the head of Huawei to come out here and greet them, because that would be embarrassing if they did that, you know? Like, they didn't invite Xi Jinping's like disgraced son-in-law out here to meet with the president on this runway. You know why they did that? Because they're a serious country with serious people in charge of it.
Foreign Affairs. It looks like the First Lady behind him. Hard to make out the other people there behind the president, but for sure President Trump there at the foot of the red carpet and now making his way down the red carpet. And Selena, we're seeing a little bit of what you talked about before, the pomp and circumstance. We know the president likes that, and clearly China's trying to deliver here today.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, China wants this meeting to go off without a hitch just as much as the U.S. does. And they're looking at this from a very long view, right? This is a relationship they want to maintain. They want to see stability in decades to come when it comes to the U.S. administration. They know that the U.S. is obviously bound by electoral cycles in a way that China is not. But President Trump, he is known to be mercurial.
Well, screw that. It's not about the electoral cycles that America is bound by. America is bound by quarterly cycles of our pedo-billionaires, as evidenced by how many of them just hopped off of this plane. Like they are not capable of thinking in terms of long-term strategy because they're beholden to the desire to attain as many profits in the short term as possible. So yeah, that's probably the bigger problem, not the cycles of democracy with 4-year, because they have elections in China. The overarching like party structure, I think, is largely like, that they don't have elections for that, like the heads of the CCP, but they have elections for like local representatives and like a lot of the political class, I'm pretty sure, in China. So I don't think that makes as much of a difference. I think the primary thing is we have two different modes of production, and that's why they think from a long-term perspective and we think from a very short-term perspective.
And they want to make sure that they stay in the good graces and don't land themselves in another trade war. What's also really interesting here is, again, I can't see the feed here because we have some technical issues, but President Trump, he is flanked by a lot of his top administration officials, but someone who's factoring very heavily in this broader bilateral relationship is the U.S. Trade Representative and the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent. He has made many trips to the Asia-Pacific region. He is accompanying the president, obviously, on this trip, and that really just speaks to how important the economic relationship is when it comes to this bilateral meeting.
And Selena, it looks like it's Lara and Eric Trump. That's who I was seeing at the base of the red carpet there before. Lara Trump, president's daughter-in-law, Eric Trump, his son, and of course all those CEOs coming along for this trip. We can see Elon Musk there in the crowd. What's different, Selena?
I think that's the NVIDIA CEO too over there. The CEOs are just there because they want to they just want to make money off of the deal, like making deals with China. And while previous presidents may have, tried to stop that from happening, like the NVIDIA CEO, for instance, I know he wants to sell NVIDIA's high-tech chips to China, whereas I think the American government largely doesn't want that to happen. And whereas previous American governments may have actually stopped our oligarchs from doing things that may disadvantage the American nation state in the long run, I think that Trump and probably most presidents going forward are just not going to give a shit, at least until we actually become a real country again. Because at this point, most of the people who are in the highest places of power are just blatantly corrupt and trying to make as much money as possible and don't give a shit about America as a nation state. And that includes all of our pedo billionaires. They all, none of them care about the nation state of America. They care about making as much money as possible. They're international capitalists. So the trading with China is beneficial for them in terms of making as much money as possible. And exploiting, the incredibly low wages that, that are paid in a lot of places in China. Not I would say that they're getting better, but they still are. Their labor in China is still incredibly cheap compared to labor in America. And that's what they care the most about as international capitalists.
About this trip compared to when the president visits allies like France or the UK?
I mean, there's so many factors that are different. I mean, first of all, these are the world's two biggest superpowers, right? I mean, the stakes here really couldn't be higher. And President Trump, unlike other presidents, a lot of the foreign policy filters directly through himself. He doesn't rely on a lot of lower level negotiations leading up to these trips. I mean, there's some of that, but not in the same way that previous administrations.
By the way, China hates that shit. They hate that it's not already pre-agreed on all of their, because like the way that it usually works is that China and America will have like sort of like pre-established like what we're going to negotiate on, even sometimes pre-established like what the agreements are going to end up being. And they like to have everything planned out from the very beginning. And Trump is like the exact opposite of that. So they do kind of despise that. Fortunately for them, it doesn't really matter. Trump is in such a weakened position in respect to China that his like constant flip-flopping, like not having a very consistent position or even consistent desires, it won't really impact that much this time, I would say.
Have done. So a lot of this relationship hinges literally on these two leaders and their personal relationship and how they speak face to face. There's not as much of the back channeling. President Trump, as you know, he just picks up the phone and calls Xi Jinping himself. So a lot is riding on this meeting between these two leaders and how they really kick it off and hit it off.
Selena, it's a very different meeting than probably what the president was expecting when it was originally planned. The war with Iran is expected to be front and center. How do you expect him to approach those conversations, and what's China's angle on it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, President Trump has given mixed signals when it comes to this, but his administration, just Secretary of State Marco Rubio just days ago, very much made it clear that they want Beijing to use that relationship they have with Tehran to convince China to play a bigger mediating role when it comes to this conflict, right?
Yeah, that's embarrassing in and of itself that they're even admitting that they're unable to influence Iran through military or economic or like any sort of coercion. They're unable to do anything with Iran. So they're asking China to come in and help because we're incapable of doing something. It is the weakest position that you could possibly be in. Man, I also, by the way, it looks like I'm dropping a lot of frames and stuff. My internet is not doing too hot right now. So hopefully it's not too bad out there, but I guess there's really not much I can do about it right now.
China is obviously a big partner of Iran's. They are a major purchaser of their oil. Trump wants Xi Jinping to use that pressure over Iran to try and extract some concessions when it comes to bringing an end to this war. But again, what I'm hearing from experts is that Beijing sees this differently. While they would prefer this war never started and that it ends soon, they really see this as America's problem to solve. They do not want to get pulled in too deeply, and they don't want to play a major role in this when they don't see a whole lot of upside. Because while China is a major purchaser of Iranian oil, they've got alternatives. They've built up major reserves of energy. They've also invested heavily in clean energy. They can afford to wait this out. They're not being hammered as much by this closure of the Strait of Hormuz as other Asia-Pacific countries are. You know, where they are really disadvantaged here, though, is that China is an export-dependent economy. So what that means is that if this war continues to drag out and there's a global economic recession, that could have a big impact on China's economy because they depend on other nations to purchase their goods.
Selena, what do you think the bar for success is for the president on this trip? What does he need to happen in order to walk away and say, mission accomplished?
Look, I think President Trump is going to walk away with that statement regardless of what happens. And I think that is partially why the president is bringing all of these CEOs along. He's really emphasized trade talks. I think the bar has been lowered when it comes to, again, those thornier, more intractable issues. But when it comes to trade and investment, there are expectations that there will be some headline deals made, that there will be commitments from Beijing to make purchases of important sectors. Again, the president is very aware of the impact of tariffs on the agricultural sector, on his farming base.
Maybe, but what are you going to give them? Like that, it's like I don't know what you know, like, I don't know what Trump is going to give them in exchange. If it's just going to be tariff reduction, maybe it'll be more significant though. Like it might be, something related to geopolitical tensions with Taiwan. I'm not really sure. But I would say like China's not just going to give Trump something for no reason. Like they're going to want something in return. So I don't know. I'm curious what that's going to end up looking like. I think, like I said, I think we're going to be pretty surprised at the sheer scale of what Trump is going to have to give Beijing, especially if they want Beijing to actually influence this war and influence Iran in a way to like stop this war. Because right now Iran just feels incredibly confident that they can outlast anything that America, they can outlast America significantly. So they're not going to want to do, they're not going to want to like give up on any of the stuff that they want either. So it really would take an ally like China, like for like Iran's ally China, I mean, to actually potentially get them to agree to a small amount of like what America wants. But I still think that China understands that America, like you can't give America too much. You can't try to make Iran capitulate too much because then it's just going to happen again and again and again. Like America is not going to stop if America even like slightly thinks that it won. So to some extent, you have to make it absolutely clear that America lost in that war. So if you don't want complete instability like indefinitely, right? Let's finish it off.
Major soybean purchases could be on the table. There's also been talk about something called a board of investment, which is a channel for the two sides to manage their trade. We could potentially see an announcement around the creation of that kind of communications channel. But really, I think the name of the game here again is stability. And from the people I'm talking to, close China watchers, if this meeting goes off with a lot of symbolism and pageantry, photo ops with some of these headline deals, that is considered progress.
Yeah, well, there you go. Yeah, I think that I don't know. Like I said, I'm just curious to see what comes out of it. I just want to know. Like I think that we're going to be pretty surprised at how much Trump offers to China in exchange for the things, like whatever China ends up giving them, whether it's investment, whether it's a ceremonial soybean purchase, like or whether it's actually influencing Iran to accept something that's not necessarily in their best interest. Whatever it is that China offers them, I think that it's going to come at a huge cost to America, like a cost that shows exactly what the true power dynamics are here. Because, like, let's be completely honest, like, America is washed. America is a washed country. We're entering our century of humiliation. China is entering its century of prosperity. Where, like, I think that they understand that, we understand it, or at least some of us understand it. The world understands it. And yeah, so they're probably going to play their hand with that in mind, if I had to guess. So anyway, let's go ahead and move on. Speaking of the sorry, let me get this set up. Okay. Speaking of the Iran war, if China will, help find a negotiated settlement that both America and Iran can agree to. Let's go ahead and move on to this video. So for those who are longtime watchers, they know that I've been saying from the very beginning that America can't produce itself out of a paper bag, and Iran is already capable of, like, even right now, even under wartime conditions, able to produce more missiles per year than America can. America has a $1.5 trillion defense budget, by the way. And I also had talked about all of the propaganda spin coming out of the administration that we've set their ballistic missiles back so far, and we destroyed them all, and there's not a single speck of gunpowder left on Iran. I also talked about how that's bullshit. They probably still have thousands of missiles and hundreds of thousands of drones, and apparently a new New York Times report came out that essentially vindicated what I was thinking. And I mean, I don't really take it as a vindication because this is obvious. Like, if you kept up with American politics for long enough, you can smell the propaganda when it starts coming out. So like, you know, and also I don't know, there's certain ways that America just always tends to lie every single time that they're in a conflict, and this is one of them. So anyway, you know, it wasn't the hardest prediction to make, but it is, you know, I'll take an I told you so every once in a while. So let's go ahead and watch this video about debate. Iran's missiles largely intact. What has the U.S. achieved? This is going to be another CNN roundtable debate. We'll see who all is on the panel as well, and hopefully, you know, hopefully it'll be a fun one.
Explosive new reporting severely undercutting President Trump's claims about Iran's missile capabilities. According to the New York Times, assessments show that Iran has restored operational access to 30 of the 33 missile sites along the Strait of Hormuz, which could threaten U.S. warships and oil tankers. Only 3 of the missile sites are totally inaccessible. The Times also notes that Iran still has about 70% of its mobile launchers and has retained another 70% of its pre-war missile stockpile. And as the war drags on, even some of the biggest hawks are beginning to lose patience.
I don't trust Pakistan as far as I can throw them. If they actually do have Iranian aircraft parked in Pakistan bases to protect Iranian military assets, that tells me we should be looking maybe for somebody else to mediate.
Okay. This is kind of funny. So this is Lindsey Graham. He's you know, everybody's favorite closeted Republican senator. He's complaining about Pakistan's mediation efforts. Now, everything that I've heard is that Pakistan has been like way too closely aligned with America from Iran's perspective, because Pakistan, every single time it comes to the table to talk to Iran, they always try to push. They say, oh, this is what America wants, and you should probably accept this. And anytime they give their counter proposals back to Pakistan, they like rebuff it. They're like, hey, are you sure? I mean, I don't think they're going to go for this. You should change this, this, and this. And so they're essentially much more aligned with America than Iran. And so Iran was already getting frustrated with Pakistan and was considering, like, you know, finding a different mediation partner as well. I think that what's happening here, though, is Lindsey Graham, he wants to get back into war because he is not invested in this war from an American's perspective. He's invested in this war from an Israel perspective. And so he wants to get America more deeply entangled. He wants America to be so deeply entangled in this war that, like, it is impossible to pull out of, right? Like he wants ground troops to be deployed. He wants at least, you know, 1,000 troops to be killed so that it's like politically impossible to withdraw, at least in the short term or whatever, you know, like they would be like, oh, we have to go, you know, so many people have died, we have to go finish the job. They would do all that sort of stuff. So that's his goal when it comes to this. So he's just trying to end Pakistan as the mediator so that they can put like Israel as the mediator or something, and then it would never there would never be any sort of actual negotiated settlement. That's what I would guess his goal is.
No wonder this damn thing is going nowhere. So, you know, I appreciate all you've done.
He says it's going nowhere. And Jason, we've talked about this with you on the show.
My cat's trying to eat. 1 second.
Several months now at this point. And we have been told that by this point, they would have to capitulate, that the blockade alone would force them to the negotiating table. That really has not happened. And not only that, but they're rebuilding their missile.
Sorry, my cat has a cone on her head, so when she tries to get into the automatic feeder, she has a little bit of trouble. She can barely reach the food, though, when I take her bowl out and put it on the ground, so... We have been just feeding her wet food while she has the cone on her head, but I just haven't gotten her one yet. So she was going back to her dry food.
Capabilities, they still have all the nuclear material in their possession. So, as Adam often asks, what are we getting from all of this bombing?
Well, we might get more bombing if they actually do get close to what the New York Times is reporting. I mean, obviously, the White House has pushed back on some of the claims about their capabilities and their access. I think one can reasonably look at how they're acting right now, and they're certainly not using those missile sites at this point. If they do, in fact, have access to it, I think the president doesn't want to get involved more so militarily. He's giving them every opportunity.
There was no indication that they were letting up in terms of missiles like before. I mean, yes, they were shooting less, but they were hitting more often. Their hit rate was going up per day. They were like hitting more targets per day as time went on. There was no indication that they were anywhere close to being like running out of missiles or anything.
I think the president doesn't want to get involved more so militarily. He's giving them every opportunity. The blockade is, in fact, working. Their economy is weakened. It's going to take some time. And I think that's the one thing that the president, just from a messaging standpoint, is in a really tough spot. He's not going to come out and say this is going to take 6 months, or you cannot put that kind of, you cannot put that kind of timeline on any of this, because you're basically telling the enemy that all you have to do is wait this out for X amount of time. So politically, that puts him in a tough spot. But as I've said, and I do think that this is...
Well, he said at the very beginning that it was going to be 4 to 6 weeks. I'm just saying.
Bearing out as truth, he's willing to take political hits because he thinks what's happening now, the end goal is the right thing. Well, and I agree that the end goal is the right thing. It is reasonable, and you've made a very good point.
Oh, about Mogler. We got the Mog. He's back. Nice. They brought him back. They got juiced so hard from Adam Mogler mogging Scott Jenner or whatever the other day that they were like, you're coming back every single time. We're going to have the baby face himself come out and just mog all of these bozos on this. Let's hope he does it again. Get some viral hits to boost this Abby Phillips show.
Whether or not it's worth it, the pain that the American people are feeling, we should be having that conversation. It's important to have that conversation. He's taken a stance, and now the response is going to be political.
The problem is, you said he can't say 6 months or a year, but he did. He said a week. Like everything you're saying he can't do, he already has done it, and he's done it incorrectly. And so then that makes people feel confused. And then you get reporting, you hear in June that their stockpile was under rubble. Like, well, just no. He didn't say under rubble.
He said annihilated.
It was basically eliminated.
Yeah. I mean, like some of them, I'm sure that they made some of them like inaccessible. I'm not denying that. I don't even think it was as many as they said though. Like because they were saying like they had like significantly degraded their, and I was like, nah, there's no way. But I bet they made some of them hard to access, but it's not like they weren't digging them out during the war too. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like I don't know, is whether the exact number is accurate or not is irrelevant to the fact that that they were always going to be able to continue producing missiles and continue producing drones throughout the entire time, and America would not be able to produce as much missile interceptors as they're able to produce drones, even while they're under like a full wartime, under full wartime. So it's like the trajectory was set in stone from the beginning.
Obliterate. Thank you. That reporting doesn't match up. So I think the American people actually agree, you and I agree, and probably everyone at this table, that Iran should not have a nuclear weapon. Yeah. And I think if the president...
I disagree. I mean, honestly, okay, I think it's up to Iran whether they want to or not. But if the argument is from a safe or what would make the region less stable or more stable, I think Iran having a nuke would objectively make the region more stable, because Israel would have to think twice every time it decides to fuck and destabilize all of the countries surrounding it. And especially it would have to think twice if it ever wanted to try to attack Iran. So I think that the region would be more stable if Iran had a nuke. But that's just my personal perspective. Whether they decide to go for it or not, I don't really care. It's up to them. But I think that they would probably be in a better position if they did go the North Korea model and just sprinted to a bomb.
From the very beginning, was more honest and said, you know, we're committed to this until the end, and not put premature, unnecessary, or just ambitious deadlines that we all knew were false, and said, and you know what, Americans, I need you to go with me on this because you will experience some pain, but I am committed. But he hasn't done that.
Can I
He
push
said
back
it's
on
fine.
one point?
Sure, that's what we're here for.
So had he said that from the beginning, would any of the reaction from folks on the left, his critics, been any different than what
Probably
it is
not.
now?
It's dude, okay. Actually, I think yes, it would have. Not from people on the left like me. I was always going to be critical of this because I'm an anti-imperialist. But I think that if he would have just pretended, right? A lot of people don't need that much propaganda to get on board for this stuff because fundamentally they have been propagandized their whole life to be pro-America and, you know, pro like America interventionism. And that includes liberals as well. So I honestly do think that just doing the bare minimum allows a lot of people to go, well, I mean, I guess, you know, we're probably doing something good. I guess I can get behind it. Like, because most people don't want to think about it that hard. And just want to, they want to still feel like a good person, like, right? Like when America does their interventionism and they are looking for any excuse they can possibly find to still feel like a good person while America is engaged in intervention, like any sort of interventions. And so, yeah, I don't know. I think that it would have made a difference, particularly with independents and with some of the more conservative leaning liberals. Now, I'm sure anybody who is a resistance, like anti-Trump liberal, probably wouldn't have gotten on board anyways. But if he could have won over, like, yeah, I don't know. I personally do think it would have made a difference.
But at least he would be acting with some integrity and honesty. Right now, if you don't believe in the
because if you look back at the Iraq War, at how many liberals were on board with that, like 90% of Democrats were on board with that because of the propaganda effort that went into it. And I think that it wouldn't have been as high with Trump because we've already gone through Iraq, so a lot of people are already somewhat aware of American interventionism, but I do think a lot of people, especially the normies and the people who don't think about it too hard, would have been much more on board because a lot of Democrats tried to be on board at the beginning. Like they did. The Schumers and stuff were trying to goad him into war, you know, like they were all for this war. But they also I think it was twofold. It could both be used as a, like they wanted the war to happen, but they could also then criticize Donald Trump for how poorly he executed it or whatever, which is a stupid argument. I've talked about that a million times, but yeah, I don't know. I truly do think it would have made a lot of difference just to do like the bare minimum amount of propaganda to try to get people on board for the war.
Or maybe you don't believe in the war, but sure. I think that right now he's talking out of two sides of his mouth, and so it is much easier for me to be a lot critical of him. Certainly. Because he's being inconsistent.
But here's the thing. I mean, I think it feels to me like it's a lot simpler than this. You just said that at least he took a stance. Well, it seems like the stance that he took may have been a massive miscalculation. And if that is the case, that's a leadership test.
Yeah. This dude has crazy eyebrows, by the way. It's insane.
Leaders either make good decisions or they make bad decisions. And it's possible that right now we are living through a bad decision and the consequences of it. That seems like the simplest contrast that's out there.
I think so, and I think it's going to have ramifications not just at home, but really for America's place in the world, because a lot of other countries, adversaries and allies alike, are looking at this decision and being like, wow, this was so off base. This was, you know, even, I mean, we've seen reporting his own.
He's so mad. He's so mad at this lady just stating the basic truths of reality that our allies and enemies are all looking at this as a like world shattering event for America's force projection, which it objectively is. If you understand geopolitics in the slightest, this is probably the worst thing that has ever happened since I've been paying attention to America's force projection in the world. Just its inability to defend its allies alone is like a huge deal, which basically has, in my opinion, just preemptively killed like NATO, like took it out behind the shed and shot it, because there's like nobody in NATO is gonna, I think, after this, think that America is going to be capable of defending them. And also with Trump's rhetoric towards NATO, why would they think he would even want to, you know? But yeah, this has been a huge hit to America's prestige around the world, especially its like military capabilities in particular.
Cabinet was saying, unless you can be sure that people are ready to rise, and there is a figure, an internal figure within the country, which there isn't, that can rise up and kind of really, own what could be a counter-revolution.
Oh my God. Do you really? I still can't believe they think this shit, man. I keep asking, how many times has an air campaign ever done a regime change? Never in the history of the world has that ever happened once. It just has never happened. And this is fantasy world. If you're going to do a regime change, you're going to have to send in hundreds of thousands of troops. Especially in Iran, you're going to need hundreds of thousands. I don't think that she would be willing to like do that either. Trump isn't even willing to do that. So yeah, that's ridiculous. That was never going to happen. That was the stupidest thing to ever think was even possible.
It's not going to work, and it's going to just carry so much pain. It also makes us look, frankly, the U.S. military look as though they're not prepared for a new age of warfare in which drones can simply take out, billions of dollars worth of battleships, in which, there's a commercial aspect to this. The insurers that actually back the ships that cart the oil through the Strait of Hormuz don't want to be there. They just don't want to be there at all. There are all kinds of geoeconomic considerations that just don't seem to have been thought of at all, and it makes us look very naive.
Yeah. I just want to address the absurd reframing that I heard here 1 second ago. This idea that Donald Trump is willing to take some political hit.
MAGA Mogler, I'm waiting for it. I need a new owned moment to throw up on my YouTube channel.
As if this is all some intentional strategy on his part. When this war started, we heard 3 or 4 different things. No missiles, no nukes, no terrorists, and maybe regime change. That's what he was going for. Regime change has not happened. The IRGC is still in control. It's not going to happen. The IRGC is listen. The IRGC is so deeply embedded.
Cardboard cutout.
The IRGC is in Iran, and they're in charge. They are so deeply embedded in Iran's institutions that you can't just get them out unless you go boots on the ground. Who's in control right now? The IRGC. Number 2, on no nukes. What they did was scatter the scientists around the country and put all of the blueprints into the cloud, so it still exists. Yes, the nuclear is the enriched uranium is buried under.
Also, they recently the political class, I can't remember if it was like their parliament or like it wasn't their it wasn't from the Ayatollah himself, but I think one of their political bodies just recently were like voting or having discussions around enriching up to 90%. So, I don't know if that'll happen. That's really more up to the Ayatollah, but yeah, so like obviously then that would be like the opposite of what America wanted. And also, I don't think that's necessarily a bad strategy. Go up to 90% right now. Like just do it and be like, okay, we're up to 90% now. Now what? Like, you know what I'm saying? You weren't able to do anything about it before. So now what? Okay. You want us to come back down to 60? Well, give us something else, Like, I don't think that's a bad strategy to do personally.
Under rubble, but it's still in Iran. They can just rebuild, get the info from the cloud, and then rebuild again. So that takes me to no terrorism. They can still fund terrorism. They'll likely get money from this deal, and the Strait of Hormuz will likely be told 3 months from now. So they're going to keep taking money. What was the last one? No nukes, no terrorists, no missiles. Okay, we just talked about that right there. They clearly still have missiles. In fact, our own supply has been.
Dude, what? We're in a ceasefire. What are you talking about? Yeah, of course they're not using them. Guess what? As soon as you strike them again, they're going to start using them again. But okay, like we're not using our missiles right now either. Like what? I don't understand what that even means.
Depleted.
Bring the UAE closer to us.
Our own supply has been depleted by 1/3 to 1/2.
Because we have a ceasefire.
50%.
Because they successfully convinced Trump that they're at a negotiating table, and yet it's been a month and there's been no deal. Actually, several of you brought this up. Who are they negotiating with, and what is the actual strategy? The son of Iran's last Shah just spoke earlier, and he says there are too many mixed messages coming out of this White House. Listen.
Why should we listen to
You
him
have
at
to have
all?
a clear message. You have to
Reza
have a clear
Pahlavi, I hate this guy, dude. He sucks.
strategy of aiming for putting an end to this regime, allowing for people to revolt, allowing for elements within the military and security forces to defect and join with the people. All of that has to be coordinated as a coherent strategy. You cannot send mixed signals. On the one hand, said people need to rise.
Dude,
and
all these fucking these traders, they're all jumping ship, man. It's like yeah, they're not going down with the ship. All of these people, Reza Pahlavi included, were so happy when Donald Trump started this war. They were out there at the RNC, just like, or at the whatever that conference, the CPAC or whatever, like being like, yeah, here we go. There's about to be regime change in Iran. This is the best thing that has ever happened to Iran. All of the like Iranian expats were out on the streets of New York, just like screaming about, yeah, the Ayatollah is dead. We got him. It's over. The regime is falling any day now. And now look at them. Now they're all jumping ship. They're all turning on Trump. It's I don't know, it's so funny to watch. The most like it's the stupidest people in the world who weren't able to predict the most obvious outcomes in the world, just like covering their own ass. Like, I don't know, it is hilarious.
at the same time say, wait, we are negotiating. It's confusing the hell out of everyone.
And you can't rely on it. And like you said, who are we negotiating with? A cardboard cutout. That does not look good for the president.
Well,
if he is not
you're
defeating
losing a negotiation to a
cardboard cutout.
One of the earliest signs, Elizabeth.
This dude hates this, man. He's so funny. It's so funny when like even these like libs can like so easily like dunk on, like, because he's clearly trying to like protect the Trump regime as much as he possibly can, or like he's trying to spin this in a way that isn't like obviously terrible for the administration. And all of these like libs who don't even really like, I think most of these people want like some form of like they would have been happy with regime change in Iran, but they're all just like so easily dunking on this guy. It's amazing.
He eliminated everybody else.
But I actually,
still
that's
at
exactly
war.
what I was going to ask you about, because one of the earliest signs of a potential miscalculation from the administration was that they acknowledged that all the people that they thought they could potentially work with, they had killed. And so when you start the conflict saying that, oh, actually, we eliminated all the people that maybe we could talk to, and now we don't even know who's running the country, isn't that a bad sign that they're not really sure how this is going to go?
I mean, I will never say it's a bad sign if those that want Americans murdered are no longer on the face of the earth. I'm never going to think that. And I think, look, you brought up amazing points.
They didn't want that. That's a stupid thing to say. The Iranian people, or like the Iranian government, doesn't want Americans dead. Like, they want American imperialists out of their country, or like out of their region, to stop destabilizing them. They want, Zionists to stop bombing every country around them and destabilizing the region or whatever. Like, yeah, they do want those things. When they say death to America, they've explained it a million times. You don't have to like buy it if you don't want to, but they've explained what they mean by that. They say death to Israel and death to America. They mean death to, like, for Israel, death to the Zionists and the people who are trying to expand and, commit genocide on every neighboring country. And then when they say death to America, they mean death to the American pedobillionaires, the Epstein class, the elites at the top who are constantly destabilizing their region. Like, they don't want, as far as I know, Iran isn't planning on building an intercontinental like ballistic missile that reaches the American shores. Like, I don't think that that's coming anytime soon.
There's nothing good that Americans can point to thus far that we can say, hey, this is going to end tomorrow. Of course, people are worried, people are panicked. At the same time, everything you mentioned is still worth it if we make sure they can never have a nuclear weapon. It is very easy to sit here while we're all still on the face of the earth and we're all here and America's as strong as possible, but it's not that easy to say if, God forbid, they throw that bomb at us. We have no idea what could happen.
Now you're worried about an hypothetical intercontinental nuclear bomb. dude, what the fuck are you talking about? If they're going to build a nuke, it's not going to be able to reach America. Like, my God, people, they create these like hypothetical enemies in their head. They're fighting these like huge monstrous shadows that are just attacking them from every angle. And it's like, what are you talking about? That's not happening. That hasn't happened. That's not happening. You're just playing make-believe again.
Clarify what the Iranian regime is. It's not one person. It's not their navy. It's not their air force. It is the Islamic. It is the IRGC. The IRGC Navy absolutely does exist. That's why the strait is still closed. But the IRGC is deeply embedded within the institutions, and former IRGC members actually inhabit the banks, the colleges, all the institutions.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna, okay, here's a quick question. If you have to ask this question, like, this is stupid, but okay. If President Trump was killed, someone, let's say Iran had some assassin come in and kill Donald Trump, did they achieve regime change by doing that? Did they regime change America by killing Donald Trump? I mean, JD Vance would become president. Hey, technically that's a different guy. Regime change, right? No, that's stupid. That's a stupid
Within
argument.
Iran, and they have an incentive to never let their power go because they were seen committing awful acts. So you have
I know.
I think we
They're
agree on
built
that.
for
I think
this
we all
moment.
agree on
The
that.
IRGC is absolutely built for this moment. And this is
I would
something that I
argue
think the
America is
president,
built for this
let me just
moment.
say, I think the president is used
Apparently
to
not.
dealing with other transactional individuals and even other transactional countries, frankly, like China. This is an ideology that we're talking about here. These people have all the time in the world to wait. They'll take all the pain.
And and one agreement does not kill an ideology. And so even if we come to an agreement and they say we will not build nuclear weapons, the next day they can start again.
Why did we celebrate Obama's deal?
That's right.
I'm not saying Obama's deal was perfect, but at least it's
a lot of people celebrated that.
What are they
What I'm
talking
saying is
about? Oh my God, dude. This is the problem. This is the problem. When you have a fake problem, like the nuclear issue with Iran is a completely manufactured fake problem. So it can be either the most like terrifying thing, like that they're 2 seconds away from a bomb, or we obliterated it and they're not going to be able to build one for 20 years. Like, it can be both at the same time. It can be whatever you want it to be for whatever narrative that you're trying to spin. The objective reality is the JCPOA had American engineers, like Mossad agents, basically going into the Iranian facilities and like looking at all of their stockpiles of uranium and all of their, and by the way, at the same time, like marking down all the names and addresses of every single nuclear scientist so that Israel could, like assassinate them at a later point in time. But still, they were looking at all of the uranium and and they've determined that Iran was perfectly in compliance. They never enriched above 20%. It was all for civilian usage. And like, again, if you're just going to make up excuses to bomb a country, like, why stop with nuclear? Why not just be like, oh, they've actually created like giant 60-foot robot dogs that they're going to have doggy paddle across the ocean and attack the United States. Have some fun with it, at least, like make up something more fun than like then they're gonna get a nuke, because it's just a manufactured problem, so you might as well have a little fun with it. Okay. Anyway, let's go ahead and move on. Let's do this one. So apparently the EU has had enough. They've had enough with Israel. I've had enough with Israel. You've had enough with Israel. And finally, the European Union has had enough with Israel, or at least one very specific aspect of Israeli society. The Israeli Nazis who constantly do pogroms in the West Bank, aka settlers, the 500,000s that are illegally occupying parts of Palestinian territory and making the two-state solution impossible. They're tired of those people, or not even all of them, some of them. So they decided that they're finally going to put some sanctions on these settlers. So let's see what this is about. Let's see how big of a scope it is, if it's all of them, if it's just some of them. I have a feeling it's not going to be all of them, but we'll see.
Arson, vandalism, and other violent attacks. These are the types of actions being targeted in new European Union sanctions on Israeli settlers. According to EU officials, 7 settlers or settler organizations are being blacklisted.
We have also seen...
Wait, 7?
Settlers or sanctions on Israeli settlers. According to EU officials, 7 settlers or settler organizations are being blacklisted.
We have also seen the surge of settler violence in West Bank. Today, we reached a political agreement to sanction Israel.
By the way, this might be one of those things with, because of, I think it was Hungary's new leader, like ousting, what was it, Orban, if I remember. Like things like this I think they've brought it up for votes before, but it hasn't passed. But I think that oh yeah, it says down here, as a change of government in Hungary ended months of blockage. So these were yeah, but it said like 7. I couldn't tell if they said 7 settlers or 7 settler organizations. If it's just 7 settlers, then that's like, come on. Like, but if it's organizations, then I mean, it's better than nothing. But it should be every single person who lives in the West Bank illegally should be sanctioned, and it shouldn't just be the EU. Should also be America. America should sanction them.
Extremist settlers and entities. Violence and extremism carry consequences.
The sanctions had been stalled by Hungary's former prime minister, but Viktor Orban's recent election loss appears to have paved the way for the veto to be lifted. The bloc also agreed to sanction several leaders of the Palestinian militant group Hamas. It comes as criticism of Israel's actions in the Middle East grows among some member states.
Okay, you might wonder why I roll my eyes. I don't know which Hamas people they decided to sanction, but I will say this. Hamas's resistance is enshrined under international law. Hamas is allowed to violently resist their occupation. That is a perfectly legal thing for them to do. Okay. Their organization, their leadership, their, the political organizations that make their decisions, the Al-Qassam brigades, all of them have a legal right to violently resist their occupation. The settlers do not. The settlers, every single one of them existing on that territory is illegal under international law. And theoretically, they should, all 500,000 of them should be brought to The Hague for trial, if we're going to be completely honest. But that's probably never going to happen. The one thing that we can hope for is that when there's a Truth and Reconciliation Committee, when Palestine is finally free, that they will all get some sort of punishment. Be it if it's just 5 years in prison, 10 years in prison, whatever it needs to be. Hopefully they'll have some sort of punishment one day.
However, foreign ministers failed to agree on stronger measures to pressure Israel, like curbing trade ties. The Israeli foreign minister condemned the new sanctions, asserting that Jews have the right to settle in the West Bank.
Shut the fuck up.
The European Union has chosen in an arbitrary and political manner to impose sanctions on Israeli citizens and entities because of their political views, and
they have a right to colonize, apparently. Israel, because they're the Jewish state, apparently has a right to colonize other people's land. That's what they're saying. That's fucking, that's abhorrent. That's genocidal.
Without any basis.
The occupied West Bank has been gripped by almost daily violence involving Israeli troops and settlers since the start of the war in Gaza in October 2023. And there's been a surge in deadly settler attacks since the start of the Iran war at the end of February. According to the United Nations, more than 40 Palestinians have been killed since the start of the year, while in 2025, expansion of Israeli settlements reached its highest level since the UN began.
Yeah, they're taking advantage of the chaos as they always do, but just mark my words, man. This isn't like there comes a point where they expand too much, right? This is how it looks a lot of the time. This is how it looked in Nazi Germany too, when they were expanding their borders every which way and they were overstretching themselves, right? eventually it collapses. You're not able to sustain the amount of militarism you're doing it. Israel is currently occupying parts of Syria. They're currently occupying parts of Gaza. They're currently, they have to use their entire military apparatus to protect all of these West Bank settlements, right? Like, so they're essentially occupying this territory as well in the West Bank. They're currently occupying Lebanon. Again, it works until it doesn't. And one day they will be stretched so thin, and it's not going to be some like small collapse or like some small retreat. It's going to be a major collapse whenever, if you get if you overextend like this much, so and especially if America stops supporting them with with money, like with whatever billions of dollars that they funnel straight from my tax, like straight out of my wallet and my taxes and my paycheck, and just shoot it straight over to Israel. Eventually, if they stop doing that, then they won't even be able to, they won't they won't be able to support their West Bank and Gaza stuff, let alone like Lebanon, Syria, like all of the other surrounding countries, So, yeah, I don't know. There's hope. There's hope at the end of the tunnel. It is just really sad right now, though. At least there's some sanctions on them. It shouldn't just be the EU, though. Everybody should be sanctioning them, and America should sanction them. And not only them. There should be sanctions on the entire country of Israel. Israel shouldn't be able to do, to like fucking like do your dishes, like they shouldn't be able to handle any money. They shouldn't nobody should be allowed to do any monetary dealings with Israel until they decide to, act like a normal fucking country and give all the people inside of their boundaries rights. And that includes Gaza and West Bank, because at this point it is a one-state reality that controls the entire West Bank and Gaza. It's just a one state where you have a certain segment of the population that is pinned and caged in and is not allowed any rights or anything, and it's constantly dominated and constantly bombed every few months or whatever. We need to just sanction them and invade them if we have to, and force them into peace. Anyway, let's see what else we got. More Israel shit. This is for Eurovision. So I guess Eurovision's going through it right now. A bunch of countries, it says 10 in the description. Sorry, 5 countries. Five countries decided this year to boycott Eurovision. They should have boycotted. I think a couple might have boycotted last year. They should all be fucking boycotting at this point. This is ridiculous. Israel should not be allowed in this. It would be like, literally, it would be like having Nazi Germany in your fucking in your Eurovision thing. It's like, what? No, you don't have to do that. But anyway, this is about this is Israeli singer Noah speaks to France 24 as Israel's participation sparks Eurovision backlash. So let's go ahead and watch and see what's going on.
Pleased now to welcome to the program the well-known Israeli singer Noah. She was a contestant representing Israel in 2009.
Yikes.
She has often used her platform to speak out against Israel's treatment of the Palestinians, both in the occupied West Bank and in Gaza. She joins.
I don't know if she's an anti-Zionist or not, so I don't know, I guess, if she's that good, but or if she's like a actually good person or not, but if she is speaking out for the Palestinians, that's better than 95% of Israelis.
Live on the program. Noah, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Look, it was in December last year that you said that Israel should, and I quote, sit out this competition because of the pain that Israel is living through in the wake of October 7th. But also, you said, because of the catastrophic suffering of Palestinians. Do you still believe that Israel should not be competing this year?
Oh, yes, absolutely. If it were up to me, then Israel would sit this one out. I want to say that I also said at the time that I'm against cultural boycotts of all sort. I don't think that is the place to protest.
Shut the fuck up.
I think art should always be allowed to express.
No. I completely disagree. cultural boycotts are a necessary part. And go back and look throughout history at all of the terrible things that have happened and some of the things that led to them being rectified. Cultural boycotts were a major part of it. Okay. So that, like, pariah status has to mean something, and that is the only way to get countries that feel like they have impunity to fall in line. That is, or not the only way. That is a part of it and a necessary part of it. And everybody who says that you should just be above it and art should be above it is just holding water for trying to keep Israel's cultural reputation above board, right? If you want to be an Israeli and still participate in the arts, that is fine. But just know you're going to have a lot of hurdles. And also, I do think that if I'm not going to work with you unless you come out and say that you are an anti-Zionist and you do not believe in the Israeli project of expansion to try and ethnically genocide all of the brown people around you. Like, you're going to have to come out and say that. And if you're not willing to come out to say that, then I think it's perfectly fine to not engage with your art. Now, if you're going to be one of the few Israelis who are actually anti-genocide and are anti-Zionist, then you're one of the most brave people in the world. And I will be very proud to have you as a member of an artistic institution or an artistic event. So I don't know. I heavily disagree with what she said. About that.
Freely a voice, an opinion. Artists come as themselves. They don't come speaking in the voice of governments.
I don't care.
Come and go.
That's the consequence. Go get your fucking country in check then. I'm sorry. This is an important part of holding people accountable. And we're not going to not hold you accountable just because you want to do your art or whatever.
Please remain. And I'm again always against cultural boycotts. Having said that, I think that my own country, if it were up to me, should have sat this one out in order to express solidarity with the hundreds of thousands of people suffering in Israel and in Palestine, our neighbors. This is not a time, in my opinion, you can't compare those two things. You can't compare those two things. Man, I just don't want to. I don't think that we should, I don't think that we should host this antebellum ball in the South because, the slaves are feeling sad, but also some of the slave owners got killed in a slave uprising recently. So both the white people and the black people, they're both suffering very, very heavily right now. No, that's a stupid argument. Stop comparing those two. They are completely different. Israeli suffering, if there is any, is very self-inflicted, and you cannot compare the colonizer's suffering to the colonized. That's completely inappropriate. This person is pissing me off pretty bad. I don't know if you can tell. I'm also not in the best mood right now, so that might be hurting. On this specific stage with sequins and feathers, it is a time to be quiet, to come into ourselves and to go through a healing process with ourselves and with our neighbors on the way to peace. Hopefully we will achieve peace. I believe peace is possible. And then coming to the Eurovision will be a celebration, as Eurovision should always be.
Well, let's just talk about this year then. You say that you don't believe in a cultural boycott. So what's your reaction then to countries like Spain, Iceland, the Netherlands, choosing not to attend because of what Israel's doing? Do you think that's the wrong call?
That's their choice. I said I'm against cultural boycotts. I think that artists always are the natural allies themselves. Artists in the artistic expression, who an artist is, what they do, are the allies of humanism, of open-mindedness, of freedom of expression.
Art is value neutral. Some art is abhorrent. Like, for instance, the TikToks that your fucking IOF soldiers do when they're trying on the bras and panties of the people that they just killed or whatever. That's abhorrent. And that art should be criticized and disdained. And the countries that produce that art should also be, this is just stupid, man. It's a stupid argument. It's ahistorical. You don't understand how these things ended in the past. You don't understand how important boycotts were to like ending Africa's apartheid and stuff. Like I believe there was cultural boycotts to that as well. And without it, that's a rung, like that's one thing, that's one less point of leverage to getting Israel to stop its genocidal ambitions. And you are just trying to whitewash that by claiming anything else.
Equal rights, equal opportunities, equal obligations, all of these things that are in the human family are expressed
not
through
in most
art,
Israelis,
in
apparently.
I'm against artistic boycotts. I respect the choice of these countries. I don't think that Eurovision is the platform to express this kind of objection. As I said, it should come from Israel, not from outside. That's my personal opinion. At the same time,
What? This lady is insane, dude. Like, what are you talking about? Like, oh yeah, and also the genocide of the Palestinians. Nobody should force them to do that. That should just be up to Israel. That should just be up to Israel. If they, they should choose to not do the genocide. It's like, what are you talking about, lady?
I'm very much part of the movement that is opposed to the war in Gaza, opposed to the actions of the Israeli government, opposed to the Israeli government in general, also opposed to Hamas, opposed to terror, opposed to terrorists, opposed to extremists, and believing in the ability of people to find common ground.
She's both sidesing it again, man. There's no equating those two things. You can't equate the colonizer to the colonized. You can't equate Hamas to the Israeli government. Hamas is not like Hamas is resisting the Israeli government. Hamas would not exist without the Israeli government, like in their actions. Like, what are you talking about?
To compromise and to reach agreements through dialogue and diplomacy, not through violence. This is my position, has always been, and most artists hold that position, if not all. I again say culture and art is not the platform for this kind of objection, in my opinion.
And look, your perspective on this is really interesting because you yourself were a contestant, you represented Israel.
Also, just a side note, this isn't related to the actual like atrocities that these people are doing or whatever, but or the culture washing that they're trying to engage in. They're also incredibly annoying. Like, Israeli artists are incredibly annoying because they cry all the fucking time. Every time they enter into any sort of artistic medium and there happens to be some brown person like who also participates, or there happens to be a Muslim who decided to put like a Palestinian flag like in the top right corner of their like huge piece of art or something, then they just go crying to the ref every time. They're just annoying. Like, Israeli artists are just annoying, and we shouldn't be forced to engage with their annoying asses just because you like think that art should be above like cultural boycotts or whatever. Yeah.
Israel in 2009, along, it has to be said, with a Palestinian citizen of Israel, another singer. Her name is Mira Awad. Let's perhaps just listen to a clip of the two of you performing then at Eurovision.
No, I'm not listening to this shit. I'm engaging in a cultural boycott. Don't tell her right now. She's going to have a heart attack.
The song was called There Must Be Another Way. It was a different context, obviously, wasn't it? But we were in the aftermath of another war. There had been the 2008-2009 Gaza war not long before you sung that.
Mowing the lawn yet again. Their strategy of mowing the lawn, constantly bombing Gaza every possible chance they get.
So I wonder what the atmosphere felt like then. Was it as sort of tense as it clearly is this year?
Well, not like this year. We're off the radar right now with what's going on in the world in general, and also between Israel and Gaza and the Palestinians. At the time, there was a lot of tension. Mira Awad and I were accused of being a fig leaf. And what we said is that the role of artists is not to reflect reality. We know reality is difficult. We're not trying to beautify what is ugly, but we are trying to throw a vision into the future, present an alternative, and then pull people to come with us.
If that's what you think, then you are a stooge, or you are an idiot. Like, if then you're a dupe. You got duped. Okay, lady, listen to me, Miss Noah here. Okay, if you actually are against the state, like the genocidal state of Israel and what they are doing to the Palestinians, then you are a rube, because they used you. They put you up on stage here to whitewash their crimes. That was their goal by doing it. There's been reporting of how Israel views Eurovision and its role in whitewashing their crimes. They believe that if they can get, like, for instance, they had an entire propaganda campaign to win the vote or whatever last year. There was a New York Times reporting or something of that, where they spent a ton of time, a ton of money, and did a whole bunch of strong arming of people as well to because they believed that this particular event was so important to their genocidal nation state. They believed that. And you are refusing to admit it, that you played your part. And if you truly, like, I think somewhere deep down, you know that. I think somewhere deep down, this lady knows that. But if you didn't, then, like I said, you're just a rube. You were used, okay? And I'm sorry to be the one to tell you, but you were. You were used by the genocidal state of Israel in order to further their genocidal actions. And so you played a part in it. I'm sorry, you did. You were a part of the genocide.
To this different place. That's what artists can do and should do if at all possible. When I was chosen to represent Israel in the Eurovision, I insisted on having Mira Awad, my amazing colleague, come with me. I insisted on writing the song "There Must Be Another Way," which would have been technically very appropriate for this year's Eurovision. It was appropriate at the time, and I'm proud to say that it's still being taught in schools and performed in various occasions.
Oh, okay. So then we tried it. We tried your idea of projecting what you want out into the world. How'd it work out? I think that if you would have rejected doing this and boycotted it, or did something like radical and like held up a Palestinian flag or something in the middle of it, then maybe something different would have happened. I don't know.
Occasions, and both Mira and I
clearly
are
this
very,
didn't
very
work.
proud of it, and we continue to work together to this day for peace.
Yeah. Noah, it's been so good to talk to you. Thank you so much for speaking to us here on France 24. You've been hearing there from Noah, Israel's Eurovision co-competitor in 2000.
I would like to say something.
Oh. Let's see if we can bring our guest
just
back
one
up.
more thing.
Please go ahead.
First of all, I'd like to wish the best of luck to all the contestants of Eurovision. It's a great celebration.
Okay, I don't care, man. Okay, yeah, sorry, that one got me heated, man. She was pissing me off because I despise when people are like, oh, can we all just get along? Or like, oh, art should be above this. Like, oh, like I hate that stuff, man. It's a genocide, okay? Sorry if your feelings get hurt or whatever. Sorry if you don't like that people don't want to work with you as an artist anymore. I'm sorry. There's more important shit going on than your fucking feelings. And you can get around that just by being an open anti-Zionist. If you're an open anti-Zionist, a lot of these places will start to work with you again. Okay. So there you go. Stop crying. Seriously. Okay. Anyway, I'm tired I can't do more Israel shit. It's pissing me off too much. So I'm going to move on. We're going to go to Kid Starmer.
Following a disastrous performance.
So we're going to check in with the UK. I haven't been able to catch up with this. I know that I think that the Labour Party got beat pretty badly in recent elections. And Keir Starmer is, I think, refusing to step down now as he's led the Labour Party into the horrific place that it currently is. And so I don't know. Let's just watch this movie. Let's see what's going on with UK politics, man.
Following a disastrous performance,
I need a palate cleanser after that last one.
by Labour in the May elections, UK Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer has vowed to prove doubters wrong and said he will get on with governing. But following calls from Labour MPs urging him to resign, can he get them back on side and fight off the threat of Reform UK? Sir Keir is the fifth person in British history to take Labour from...
As someone who went through this already, where Keir Starmer is essentially the Biden right now, like he was the one that everybody coalesced around in order to stop the rise of the far right, the last election cycle. As someone who just went through it, I got news for you. I think reform's going to probably make a lot of gains in the same way that Trump made a lot of gains after Biden was unable to fix a lot of the material conditions that were making people suffer, and they turned towards more fascism with Trump too. I think the same thing is going to happen with Keir Starmer and his Labour. The only hope is that the Greens can stop it. We'll see. Maybe they can.
opposition to power. Supporters credited him with turning the party around from its worst general election result since 1935 to a landslide victory.
We will carry the responsibility of your trust as we rebuild our country.
But nearly 2 years later, Starmer's facing calls to resign.
Is it over for Keir Starmer? Is it over for Keir Starmer? Is it over for Keir Starmer?
I'm Matt Chorley, and like a lot of the media, I'm outside number 10.
With Matt.
He also covered up for, I think, Mandelson or whatever in his Epstein-related crimes. So there's that as well.
Standing outside Downing Street, who better placed to answer the question, how did we get here?
It's less than 2 years since Keir Starmer stood outside the door to number 10, arriving as a new Prime Minister, and told us he was going to bring change, a politics which tread more lightly on your lives. For months now, I've been speaking to Labour MPs and ministers.
We're going to privatize everything. That's what I heard right there. Austerity, baby. Everybody loves austerity, right? I mean, I'm serious. I think that's basically what he did. He just privatized shit and engaged in austerity. And yeah, no wonder nobody fucking likes you.
Privately about their concerns about Keir Starmer's premiership. And in recent days, that's spilled over into the public. Some have concerns about the direction of the government, cutting the winter fuel allowance, which they had to U-turn on.
Is he planning to U-turn on winter fuel cuts?
Or not doing more for those struggling to make ends meet. Others saying, why were they tacking to the right, seeming to emulate Reform UK on immigration? Real concerns about losses.
I'm telling you, man, everything America does, the UK does it like 10 years later. they're just going through the exact same shit that we're going through.
In local elections last year, but particularly this year, where they're also
like the Labour Party, which is essentially a stand-in for the Democratic Party, if you want to think about it in terms of American politics, tacking to the right constantly because they see a rise in the far right, and they're like, oh, maybe if we adopt some of the far right's policies, then we can, then we can win. And then it makes them even less and less popular with their base until they lose like any constituency at all. Like we've seen it all before, man. That's why I'm telling you, I think Reform's going to have a good, a pretty good next election cycle.
What near wiped out in Wales and Scotland. And then, of course, there's the question of Peter Mandelson, the Prince of Darkness, who once served for Tony Blair and Gordon Brown in number 10, brought back by Keir Starmer, and then sacked as the scale of his relationship with the paedophile Jeffrey Epstein became clear. And more revelations have come out about Peter Mandelson, raising questions about Keir Starmer's judgment. And what really angered Labour MPs is while everyone's talking about Peter Mandelson, they're not talking about the things the government has done. The Renters' Rights Act, a move to a greener energy system, helping people with energy bills, lifting the 2-child benefit cap, breakfast clubs, the list goes on. But it's a list that more and more Labour MPs feel isn't being heard because of Keir Starmer. They think he's not selling it properly, and that questions about his judgment have overshadowed the message the government has been trying to sell.
Since David Cameron won the 2010 election, the UK has seen a succession of 6 prime ministers. Despite calls from MPs to resign, the Prime Minister says that he intends to get on with governing as no formal leadership challenge has been launched. As per Labour Party rules, the only way for MPs to trigger a leadership contest is for 20% of them to back a challenger. With the current size of the party at the moment, this means that 81 Labour MPs would need to stand behind one name. And at the moment, there's a few names in the mix to be contenders to replace Starmer. Well, Andy Burnham has strong support from Labour MPs, and polls suggest he is the most popular Labour politician with the voters. He's served as Greater Manchester Mayor for almost a decade, earning him the nickname the King of the North. But the major obstacle between him and number 10 is that he currently isn't an MP. This also wouldn't be Burnham's first attempt at leading the Labour Party, as he has stood twice before, in 2010 when he lost to Ed Miliband, and 2015 when he came second to Jeremy Corbyn. Another name in the mix is Wes Streeting, who's been Health Secretary since Labour came to power in 2024, and shadowed the position in opposition for 3 years before that. He's regarded as being one of the best communicators in the cabinet, and can point to a fall in NHS waiting lists as one of his achievements in government. However, what can make him unpopular is that he's perceived to be on the right of the party, whereas party members tend to be on the left of Labour MPs.
Yeah, he's screwed. I mean, like, don't do it, please. we tried with Kamala, who ran a right-wing campaign, a right of Biden campaign, and it failed spectacularly. So I'm begging you, don't do it. Put in a left populist. That's your only chance.
He's also politically vulnerable in his constituency in Ilford North, which he held at the last election by a tiny majority. There's also Angela Rayner, who was until last year the Deputy Prime Minister. In 2015, she was elected in the Manchester constituency of Ashton-under-Lyne and rose quickly in Westminster, serving in Jeremy Corbyn's shadow cabinet. After his resignation in 2019, she decided against running to be leader and instead won the race to be deputy leader. In 2025, she dramatically resigned after admitting she had not paid enough tax on the purchase of a new home. Rayner has a strong base of support amongst Labour MPs and is fairly popular with party members, but less so with the wider population. It has been widely reported that she is still waiting for the results of a HMRC investigation into the home purchase, which could complicate any immediate leadership campaign. With Reform UK making major election gains last week, many Labour MPs have come to believe that Starmer doesn't have what it takes to take on the threat of Farage's party.
One sec. Let me go see if the Greens.
That Starmer
Greens are up. We just gotta get that. We just gotta get that like higher. The Greens should I think, in my opinion, what needs to happen is the Green Party just needs to replace the Labour Party as the left party. Personally.
Doesn't have what it takes to take on the threat of Farage's party. But could a new leader fuel concerns of instability amongst voters, paving the way for Reform UK?
The big question lingering in the Labour Party right now is which direction to go. They've clearly lost a lot of ground to Reform UK, who've picked up council seats of theirs right across the country. Some think the answer is to tack to...
Well, the problem also is that Labour, I think... didn't Keir Starmer come out and straight up say, like, if you if you want to move the party left, we don't need you or something? Like, he came out and said something crazy like that, and he was like, we'll win without you or whatever. And so I think that what really is happening is that they're just losing a lot of their base. Like a lot of their base is moving on to other places. And then obviously there is when you don't present an actual left party or whatever, a lot of the people just think, oh, well, I guess the right-wing party is the only party that's going to do anything, because generally the Liberal Party or the center, I mean, people would say center left, I would say center right or whatever, like Labor or the Democratic Party. They are specifically designed in a lab to not accomplish anything whenever they legislate, anything good, really. They or at least not they never want to they will always limit the amount of good things that they do because they don't want to infringe on the capital owning class too much. And so then once there's no actual left party who's out there, showing exactly how they govern and what they're trying and governing effectively, then people just start to think that the right-wing party in America would be the Republican Party. Here it'd be the Reform or the Conservative Party. They think, oh, I guess those are the only people who can get anything done, so I guess we'll vote for them. A lot of independents or people who aren't that tuned into politics will start to think that. So I don't know. It just seems like they're going through the exact same thing that we went through with Biden, basically, at this point. So there you go. That's what's happening there. I think that was everything that I had in my title. So now we can just, I think now we can just do whatever we want. Oh, I think I had this one in my title. Okay, we're gonna move on from we're gonna move on from politics stuff real quick, or I don't think this will have much to do with politics. We're gonna watch some science stuff now. I've talked about it before, but I like science stuff. I like things that have to do with space and like black holes, and I don't know, the crazy aspects of how massive our universe is and like the order of it and all that or whatever. So this kind of falls in line with that. So this is a video called "Scientists Finally Saw How Complex Life Actually Began." So we're going to watch this and we're going to see if this is some actual new information or if it's what we kind of already knew. The way that I understand it is there's basically two theories. And we'll see what this one ends up being. But there's the theory that life kind of spontaneously like sprouted on Earth through like a mutation that allowed mitochondria and stuff, like cells within cells, to kind of come about. And I think that they like maybe existed or that may have happened near like sea vents or something. Like I think that that's like a theory. Another theory I think is that life actually sprung up outside of Earth and you know, was like hanging out, or the building blocks of life were, and then like arrived through an asteroid or something. I don't know. Those are like the two that I've kind of heard floating around. So let's see what this one's about.
This is Anton, and today we're going to be discussing some of the recent discoveries in regards to the origins of complex life on planet Earth, and specifically a major breakthrough coming from Australia in helping us understand how pretty much everything around us, including me and you, potentially began. And that's because, based on some of the research from the last few decades, a lot of biologists believe that complex life very likely arose as a result of a kind of a symbiosis between bacteria and other complex cells. But the problem was that this was mostly a theory or a hypothesis.
That was the first one that I was trying to explain. I'm not an expert on any of this by any means. I just watch YouTube videos. So, but yeah, the theory is that like there were these bacteria and then cells that like kind of like merged together to form complex cells that had like, you know, like mitochondria and like various aspects inside of the cells that and then that became kind of the building block that everything else, because then after that came like DNA and like all that sort of stuff, and that was kind of like the first mutation that set everything off, I think, is the theory.
And there was always a kind of a missing link between simple bacteria and much more complex cells, such as eukaryotic cells, that all of us are made out of. And so biologists have never actually seen this in action until basically extremely recently. And so to find some of these answers, we actually have to travel to a location that most of us have probably never heard of. The location in Western Australia that's actually a World Heritage Site. This is known as Gathagoodoo, a location off the coast of Western Australia that's also sometimes referred to as the Shark Bay. And here this place is very important for one very specific structure that's actually extremely rare on our planet. This location is home to stromatolites, layered mounds of microbial life that basically resemble rocks but are actually living relics of ecosystem from billions of years ago.
That's crazy. These things are living. They look like a bunch of little poops. But I don't know, that's cool though. I've seen these like things in, or like, no, I it's probably not the same. I've seen like what are they called? The like where there's a bunch of little pools of water. It looks very similar to this, but I think it's more just made from rocks or whatever. But that's very interesting.
And though these have been discovered in other locations like near Saudi Arabia, the study about which we've discussed in one of the videos in the description,
you're not allowed to go there. We're boycotting them. No new science is allowed from Saudi Arabia.
Normally these are actually kind of rare, but are super important for understanding the evolution of complex life. And in essence, these are microbial mats, or basically a collection of different microbes living together, forming these enormous communities. And they're also oxygen factories. In fact, some of the first bubbles of oxygen that filled Earth's early atmosphere most likely came from the ancestors of very similar structures. So in some sense, you could say that we owe our existence to a lot of these somewhat strange-looking rocks. But the most recent discovery is not...
You're saying I came from that? Come on, man. The little pile of poop, you're saying I came from that? Man. Man. I was hoping You know, I was hoping it would be a little bit more pretty, I guess. But you know what? Sometimes biology ain't pretty, okay, people? That's your ancestor right there. You see that? That's your ancestor. Say hi to Dad. That's him.
Really about oxygen or how these microbes breathe, but about genealogy of our greatest microbial ancestor. The genealogy of so-called archaea. Technically, these are not bacteria and not eukaryotic cells, but are something slightly different and possibly something in between. But to understand this research and why it's so important, let's briefly talk about our cells, eukaryotes. And so here, all plants, animals, fungi, and a lot of single-cell organisms we usually find in ponds are what's known as eukaryotes. Basically, our cells have complex parts, including nucleus and mitochondria.
When I was, this is a little Clay side story, but when I was a kid, I had to create a replication or like a replica of this or whatever out of food. I remember having to do that as a child. I think I used like an orange for the middle. I used like Twizzlers, I think, for all of the, I forget, the eukaryotic walls or whatever these things are. I don't remember what else I used. I was in like 4th grade. Okay, like come on, I'm like 33 now. You can't expect me to remember all that shit.
And a lot of structures that bacteria do not possess. And for many decades, the explanation for this was the idea known as endosymbiosis or symbiogenesis. Basically, 2 billion years ago, some kind of a simple bacteria, possibly joined with some kind of an archaea, merging into a single cell and becoming a kind of a proto-eukaryote. And so basically, instead of eating the bacteria, the archaea formed a partnership with it, with the bacterium eventually becoming our mitochondria, the powerhouse of the...
That's what I knew mitochondria had something to do with it. And so that right there was the connection, I guess. It kind of became the mitochondria as it, you know, after it formed that sort of symbiotic relationship.
Cell that provides a lot of energy, but also seems to control our bodies in a lot of other ways. You can learn about this in one of the videos in the description. And so not so long ago, less than a decade ago, completely by accident, researchers discovered a potential host of this initial relationship. That's the Asgard archaea you see right here. And a lot of these microbes were actually named after the Norse gods, such as Loki, Odin, and Thor, mostly because they were discovered near a hydrothermal vent referred to as the Loki's castle.
I assumed it was because they were all big Marvel fans.
It's actually very close to Norway, so essentially...
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, there's a lot of stuff that people name after, like, after nerdy shit, because a bunch of it's funny because it's like my generation now that's coming into like the more prominent positions nowadays in a lot of these fields, and so a lot of them are naming stuff after like things from my childhood, and I'm like, nice, that's rad. I feel represented. Millennials unite. We're gonna name everything cringe millennial shit, and you guys can't do anything about it.
Referred to as the Loki's castle. It's actually very close to Norway, so essentially naming in this case made a lot of sense. And what makes them special is that they do carry a lot of eukaryotic signature proteins and a lot of additional genes that bacteria do not have, but our cells seem to contain as well. And so, for example, proteins for moving the cell membranes and transporting materials that we once thought only complex cells could do. But while scientists have known about these Asgard archaea for at least a few years now, they essentially are just a little bit too difficult to study in the lab. Mostly because they grow incredibly slowly and usually depend on other organisms for survival. Which basically means that a lot of this was still somewhat hypothetical, and there was no actual evidence that any of this could have happened. And so this is where the team of researchers, including the associate professor Brennan Burns, decided to focus on. They spent 5 years nurturing these microbes and essentially tried to grow them inside the lab based on the samples collected from the Shark Bay. In other words, they tried to recreate all of this in lab conditions in order to find some kind of an evidence for this endosymbiosis hypothesis. And in this new study published in April of 2026, they have now revealed that they were able to successfully enrich a novel species of Asgard archaeon that you can kind of see in this picture. They also named this, okay, let me try this. This is going to be a tough one. Neriarchaeum marumarumaye, with the word Maru Marumaye coming from the local tribal language that basically means ancient home, which basically is what they're trying to recreate here. They're trying to recreate the ancient home of complex life. And so this is where things get a little bit interesting. Here, by using extremely sensitive 3D imaging techniques, something referred to as electron cryotomography, scientists were able to witness something we've never seen before: the first contact between an Asgard archaeon and a bacterium. And specifically, these images show us that the two organisms were physically interacting through very tiny thread-like structures referred to as nanotubes. In other words, here we have the first ever evidence for an actual symbiosis between archaea and specific...
Okay, so that's what it is. So I guess these little tubes are interacting with this like proto cell thing, and potentially they're going to, well, I guess like the theory is that they would then eventually like merge in some way into this cell, and potentially you know, that would then show that this whole symbiotic relationship is possible to then turn into a cell. So okay, cool, I like it.
Basically Asgard archaea and bacteria. But here these microbes were not just touching, they were cooperating. And that's because here, by using genetic sequencing, scientists determined that they seem to be sharing nutrients, including vitamins.
Whoa.
Specifically here, the archaea produced things that bacterium needed, and the bacterium...
This is all very new, so there's also possibilities that there could be errors in this or whatever. But if they are like actually symbiotically, like, you know, relaying energy and stuff, then it's really not that much of a stretch to say that, you know, this is probably how, you know, the first eukaryotic cells started to, or like proto cells or whatever, started to form.
Return the favor, which directly reflects the hypothesized partnership that we believe formed the very first complex cells. So it's kind of like the Shakespearean Romeo and Juliet, where two different families of microbes decided to break tradition and live together. Although, wait, in the Shakespearean story, I think they both die. Here, though, they didn't. And so I guess the question is, why exactly does this matter?
They also, you know, they also weren't like torn apart by their families or whatever either. I think, as far as I know, it seems like they got together pretty, like the rest of them weren't trying to stop each other from reaching each other or anything.
Well, this Australian discovery is a huge deal because it provides the first visual model and actual evidence for how complex life might have started on a primitive Earth. And so even though for a very long time we only had DNA evidence, or basically just some of the genes that we seem to share, now we can physically see the cellular machinery in action and how most of this began. And it also confirms that life didn't just evolve through competition, but in most cases through extremely complex cooperation. And so without this...
Wow, isn't that a nice message, people? Isn't that a nice message? That sometimes progress, it's not through competition, it's through cooperation. And I think that's something that we can all, you know, we can all take away and into our daily lives. I like that. I like that as a analogy for, you know, our current existence. That's nice.
Specific microbial marriage, complex life as we know it would have never existed. Although naturally where this happened is of course currently unknown. But based on some of the other studies, we might start making some conclusions based on what's been discovered in a lot of extreme environments on the planet. So this is not the only study on the evolution of life and the beginning of complex life, with some of the other recent research investigating at least two potential places where all of this could have begun, with the two most likely locations being either the deep-sea hydrothermal vents or possibly land-based hot springs.
Wow.
So for example, at least one recent study discovered that minerals called iron sulfides inside of these hot springs seem to trigger chemical reactions that produce...
Well, there you go, people. I think that's good enough on that one. I just wanted to learn about these cells and, you know, what new stuff was found out. And you know what? I think it's important for people to have some basic understanding of science. So there you go. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to Actually, let's see, what time is it? Oh, I have to leave in like 15 minutes. So I'm probably just going to move on to x.com now. Sorry, people, if you like the reading portion, I'm skipping it again. Okay. Let's see here. What's this? Okay. So we're moving on to x.com. We're going to scroll around and we're going to try to find some good stuff. Like I said, I got to get out of here at 6 o'clock Central Time. So that means 15 minutes, people. You get 15 more minutes of me. Let's go ahead and watch this.
I can take it if you want.
No, no worries.
This is the aura of shut down Amazon, just waltzing in and giving so much aura. Adri, she just posts Hassan stuff all the time, so.
Yo, what's good?
Oh, nice. He was
How you doing?
is that Christian Smalls, I think is his name. Yeah, I think that's him. He's the person who I think started the Amazon labor union, if I remember correctly.
All right, we already know. You already know. Go. We're about to do a press.
Yeah, go ahead, do your thing, bro.
conference.
I just did it. Go ahead, man.
Oh yeah.
So lovely
Hello.
to see you again. We met in Qatar. I can take
Wow. I guess that was some aura, sure. Oh, Polymarket. Go get your bets out, people. Bet if I'm going to end my stream before or after 6 p.m. There you go. There's a new bet for Polymarket. What do we got? Okay. Dark Woke Commander Kyle Kalinske says, the Republican mind is amazing. Zoran has been in the news for balancing the budget without cutting services, raising taxes on the rich, cracking down on shitty landlords, freezing the rent, universal childcare. What exactly is lunatic about that? This guy supports a war criminal, pedo, rapist, con man. That's actual lunatic shit. I guess he was responding to a New York Post article. Ex-Mets flamethrower Noah Syndergaard calls Zoran Mamdani a lunatic as he advises former club to stop hanging out with socialist mayors. You know what I say, and you know what I'm sure Zoran says, is get fucked, loser. That's what I say. Cry harder about it. They want to be associated with Zoran. You want to know why? Because everybody fucking loves him. Who the hell are you? Like, nobody knows who you are, dude. Like, everybody knows who Zoran is. Nobody knows who you are. Why would anyone take your word over his? That's silly. That's silly. Breaking. This is the UN Special Rapporteur, Francesca Albanese. She's been at the forefront of defending the Palestinians a lot. Which obviously has led to the United States trying to like ruin her lives with all of their power as like the global superpower that we are. But anyway, this says, breaking, U.S. court has suspended the U.S. sanctions against me. That's good. As the judge says, protecting the freedom of speech is always just the public interest. Thanks to my daughter and my husband for stepping up to defend me, and everyone who has helped so far. Together we are one. That's rad. I like that. Okay. Okay, we're gonna watch. This person says, "I love seeing Jews go up against Zionists and rip apart their whole argument in just a few minutes." Let's go ahead and watch this. We'll see if we agree.
It's not a colonial project because you can't colonize land that was already yours over thousands of years.
Yikes!
Listen, what you guys are doing.
This is these are the most New York coded Hasidic Jews I've ever seen. These are the Hasidic ones, right? I'm not super familiar with all the sects of Judaism or whatever, but I think that's them. Am I wrong? Hasidic Jews. I thought they were the ones with the hats and stuff. Okay, let's keep watching.
You're supporting evil, and then you dare to do this in the name of Judaism and the Jewish religion. This is an embarrassment to our people. And
this proves to me what I've been saying all along, that these people are New Yorkers first. they're New Yorkers, but like they like these are the most New York coded like Jews that I've ever seen. And like I think that a lot of people think that Jews are like a monolith and all support like the state of Israel or whatever, but in America in particular, Jews are like Americans first, like first and foremost, and they behave very similarly to Americans, and this is just like an example of that.
And this is a desecration of God's name. The state of Israel is a movement of terrorism, started terrorism way before anybody spoke about it.
Of course I'm a Jew. We're humanitarian Jews that are against murder. I'm 73 years old. I know since I was 14 that Israel is not a democracy, has never been a democracy.
True.
We are here for the rights of people to eat and live and have water and have their homes returned.
Yeah, that was pretty rad. Good for them. Yeah. We already watched this of Trump getting the red carpet treatment from Beijing. What's this? A song? That's probably a song. Drewski, what's he got going now? I don't know if I'm allowed to listen. I don't know if I'm allowed to listen to that. The BET Awards. I don't know. Let's keep going. Okay, so dear God. Okay. Batya Ungar Sargon says, I'm sorry, but Jews train dogs to rape prisoners is an IQ test, and a lot of you are failing. Ryan Grimm says, this relentless effort to replace Israel with Jews is disgraceful. Defend the state of Israel if you believe it can be defended. Stop implicating millions of people who are not with you on this. Yeah, because nobody said that Jews trained dogs to rape prisoners. They were saying Israelis did that. Like, what is she talking about? Man, these people, they cannot stop doing like anti-Semitism. Stop doing anti-Semitism. Just stop replacing Israel with Jews. That's anti-Semitic. Stop doing it. Okay, what do we got? Palki says, Mallory McMorrow has run a very nasty campaign filled with Islamophobia against Abdul Hassan and the Muslim population in Michigan. Meanwhile, Abdul has consistently risen above and focused on people and policies. The polls reflect that, and it's clear who's ready to represent Michigan. Yeah, ever since Abdul did that rally with Hassan, he's up crazy numbers in the polls, man. It's like 40% or something, compared to like, I think like 23 and like 18 for McMorrow. Like he's way up now. It was the best decision he ever made. It just goes to show you what people are actually looking for in terms of politicians right now. Yeah. What? No. I see a piece of road. What are you talking about? Sorry, that was I don't know. Dear God. Clavicular will be live today, 5 p.m. Eastern time with JD Vance and Jake Paul. People, keep your daughters away from this event. Don't let them near it. It won't be good. It won't be good. These people, do not let them around women, man. I swear. It will not end up okay. Let's see. What do we see? Whine about it. This week, we're joined by Ray's sister and nephew as they talk about her having a complicated birth, being a new mom, and what it's like growing up with Ray. There you go. Let's watch it.
Did you eat it?
Ew.
No. There's a thing with
Sorry. Maybe I shouldn't say ew. If people want to do that, that's perfectly fine. I just personally find it gross. You're allowed to. If you want to, I'm not going to stop you. As long as it's safe or whatever. Like, I don't know if you got to cook it to a certain internal temperature. I don't, on my little sheet that I have of like the internal temperature that you're supposed to get like each meat to in order to be safe, they don't have a line for placenta. Okay. So I'm just saying, I just make sure it's safe if you're going to engage in that. okay?
Placentas where you can like eat it, and
It is a thing. It is a thing. And you can also get it in pill capsule form,
Yeah.
so it's like less. I didn't want to eat my
What?
own organ. I don't know. It's for
I would
beneficial.
eat your organ.
I'm sure you would. I'm sure you would have eaten my placenta. When you are laboring, you give absolutely zero craps.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you curse on this?
You just said zero craps.
That's the biggest sign that you're a new mom. Is you start replacing all of your standard repertoire of curse words with silly phrases. So there you go. That was a cute one though. I liked it. I'll give it a like. Okay, we're at 5:54. I got 5 more minutes. What's this one?
One of the worst.
This is Mike from PA, by the way. This is my role model. I want to be Clay from STL. That's what I want to be.
This is of the left in America is a profound disrespect for the organizing power of churches in America, of communal spaces, and especially the black church in America, which is the backbone of the political power of the black community.
It's also where a lot of the organizing for black political issues comes from, and it's also where a lot of the get out the vote comes from as well, in terms of like getting people to the polls and stuff or whatever. A lot of that's also organized by the black church,
where they found their mutual aid networks to stand against white supremacy. And so when leftists, especially white leftists, are
he's
not
coming for me,
capable of being comfortable in these spaces and occupying these spaces, that is why we...
Well, maybe not. Let's not use the word occupy when it comes to black spaces. Let's say exist in black spaces. I'm just saying. There's a little language critique right there.
That is why we oftentimes lose elections. And so what Raphael Warnock is doing here is he is endorsing AOC. He is introducing AOC. He is helping AOC in a space where they're going to try to leverage against her. One of the worst.
Yeah, I mean, that's good. I didn't know what this was. So I guess AOC, I guess, was, in a black church being introduced by Raphael Warnock. And I mean, I think that's a good strategy. You're definitely going to have to get the black vote on your side if you're going to run in the Democratic Party. And I mean, I think that, I don't think AOC will have that much trouble with that if she is the front runner and she does decide to run. And if if our pedo billionaires allow her to become our nominee, which is, a big if. But yeah, I mean, I think that she could do it. And the stuff like this, I don't know, anytime she gets out in front of new people, and especially new demographics and stuff, I think it is pretty important. And I think it's a good idea for her to do. More Obama and Tallarico. I'm glad that Obama is at least like, again, he's like, he only cares about his legacy. That's his main reason for doing anything. And I think that he sees the wind blowing. And so he's hanging out with Tallarico. Tallarico isn't even some like radical by any means or anything. But he is like he is the candidate who's willing to like call what Israel's doing a genocide or whatever. So like he's at least in that bucket. And so I think Obama is just trying to, he's really just trying to make it look like this was the side that he was on the whole time, when really he was more of just a standard neoliberal when he was actually in power. But okay. Let's see here. I think this is from what's that? Wolfenstein or something? Is that the game? I haven't played it. I've just seen like clips from it or whatever. But let me just look it up. Wolfenstein. Is that the game? It looks very similar. I think that's the game. It says the first trials for the people arrested for being anti-fascist are going to look like this. By the way, this is a funny picture, but it is pretty serious. They're trying to really criminalize like any thoughts that are like anti-capitalist or whatever. Like they're really trying to like make it illegal to even like critique capitalism in America at this point, which you know, I see it as a like a clear sign that they are very, very worried that people are starting to wake up to the fact that capitalism is a shit system for dummies. And I think they're starting to realize that people are waking up and they're getting a little bit scared about it. If capitalism was so great, then they wouldn't be out there trying to criminalize people criticizing it. They say the White House says they will identify and neutralize political groups that are anti-American. That's an arbitrary thing. I think that Trump's anti-American, you know, like, come on. Radically pro-gender, whatever that means. I am pro-transgender. Sorry. I am pro-transgender. I guess, does that make me a radical? I don't really know. That was pretty just common sense beliefs in my opinion. And anarchist. I do not consider myself an anarchist, but that's because I don't really think that that anarchism is like possible at this particular point in time. I just say that I'm an anti-capitalist because I think that's the most general. Anything left of that is like the direction I think, or like anything that or left is the direction that we need to go. Okay. I'm going to try to find one last one and then get out of here. Okay, what's this? Okay, I'm just gonna, well, actually, I don't know if I have time for this. Sorry. Maybe next time. Well, probably not. I just scroll through, so it probably won't be on my feed next time. Sorry, people, if you wanted to watch that. Okay, let's try and find something fun to get out of here on. Mayor Mamdani's fun, but it's probably not going to be that fun. I was there on that one when he was with Cori Bush. Patties secured. Wait a second. Jamaican patties. Oh, okay. That sounds good. Smoke a doobie? You're smoking with Satan. Uh-oh. Just a simple toke of devil's lettuce could make you sacrifice your family to Satan, just like Peter did. What the fuck? Marijuana is the leading cause of America's youth joining satanic cults, and that's a fact. Be smart, don't start. Oh my god, dude. The old school ads are crazy. We need, I'm not saying we need more of this, but I miss the days when we had like unhinged ads, like anti-drug ads, because they were like iconic. I won't lie, they were iconic. Maybe they could channel that sort of creativity into like something not so, you know, like satanic panic or whatever. Like that would be nice, but sorry people, avert your eyes. I heard he got cast in that new Odyssey movie as the ogre or the Cyclops. Can you imagine, dude? It's really okay. I'm not gonna lie, like you can imagine, right? Like if you just like covered up one of his eyes, like he has the perfect face to be the Cyclops, and like in that new Odyssey movie. Who was it that's doing it? Is the Christopher Nolan or something? Like I thought it's like the Batman guy or something is doing it. Yeah, they need to. I gotta hire for you. Okay, I know a guy. let me take a high paying role in casting. I'll get you the guy. I wanted to watch some of this earlier, but I don't have the time now. About the Fauci shit, man. They cannot get over it. I read an article the other day from Kotaku about people review bombing Slay the Spire because they were like like pissed off that they had some girl from like the Gamergate era or something was like mentioned in a credit at the end. And I'm like, people move the fuck on, man. That was 10 years ago. And same with these people talking about Dr. Fauci, dude. That was like 6 years ago. Get a new thing. Like, we're so far past this. Who cares? Chill out. Okay, what do we got? Come on, let's find something fun. Oh my God. Okay. Donald Trump wants to make Venezuela the 51st state. Great. Another one. He can't decide between Canada or Venezuela, I guess. Okay. Come on. Oh, okay. Let's just end it on this one, people. We'll end it on a nice, classic, unhinged, demented president moment. A classic moment where his mind is failing, it's leaking out of his ears, and he just cannot control himself. So let's go ahead and watch this.
So what happened is we have a ballroom that's under budget. It's going up right here. I've doubled the size of it because we obviously need that. And we're right now on budget, under budget, and ahead of schedule. I doubled the size of it, you dumb person.
I doubled the size of it, you dumb person. that was a pretty good one. That's a pretty good unhinged, demented Donald moment. It's so far though the best. You'll never beat the quiet piggy. That one, man. He is unhinged, dude. Ever since he turned 95 or however old he is, Grandpa's going wild.
You are not a smart person.
You are not a smart person. Oh man. Okay, that's it, people. I'm out of here. I gotta go to a DSA thing. I usually don't do them on weeknights, but I was like, this one, I'm just gonna go. So whatever. I'm making it happen, Cap'n. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed the stream. I was getting back in the swing of it. I think it was pretty good. If you're watching the VOD, love you too. And yeah, this has been Technically Clay, and the stream is technically over. Bye-bye.